Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you for watching this, which if you're on the video side, we are actually live here on a Wednesday night. Of course, you can also catch us on the audio side, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your show from. I'm joined right now in studio by Tone Pucks, like I usually am at this time this week. You know what, before we get into some riveting Bills and Sabres talk today, which we will, let me start by thanking you for giving me a straight up birthday snub. I mean,
I see that.
elite. You see the bullet point?
I do. I do. And I hardly ever look at those too. So, but I have a question.
Okay.
Is it the no wishing you a happy birthday on Facebook snub?
A lot of it.
Or is it not showing up to your get-together snub?
It's all of it.
It's all of it.
It started Saturday, a party of which you were invited to. So I got a Tone Bucks no show on Saturday for that.
That's correct.
Then going into my actual birthday on Monday, no text. No, I never would expected a phone call, but no text, no Facebook message, no tweet, no writing on the Facebook wall. And of course, I went, I have a rule, 24 hours or so after my birthday, I like to go back on Facebook because you got to give people a chance who might have been busy or just forgot that belated 24-hour window. I looked there was none. I came up with a list. I'm like, all right, well, who shunned me so I can internally hold it against them going forward? And there's only two people. And one of them has at least somewhat of an excuse. He's in Montana with his wife, sightseeing on an adventure. You probably weren't doing shit Monday or Tuesday. You just made a conscious decision to not wish me a happy birthday.
I'm gonna ask that you stop short of a conscious decision. All right. We'll start with Saturday. I had a 3:00 first pitch for an 8-year-old's first ever baseball game. The whole event of having the kids, 5 and 8 now at opening day, with the giant playground and everything. It was a scene. I knew. All right. I knew. And I had a game that morning. I had a high school game that morning. I knew I was going to be shot by 6:00, which would have been really the point at which I could have, the first point, the earliest of which I could have looked at possibly coming. I knew I was going to be shot, and I was so shot that even on the way home from Shoshone, it never even crossed my mind. I just knew I was going to be dead tired. Monday, I kept seeing Saturday as the miss, Saturday as the day. And that was it. You know what I mean? Come Monday, I kind of washed my hands of what the actual day was. I saw some Facebook, action on the birthday and stuff like that, of which I usually ignore until the latest point possible with maybe some sort of, joke or something like that. And then I just ended up forgetting, I just ended up forgetting. So, it wasn't really purposeful by any stretch of the imagination.
First comment of
not
the day.
Scully, any sleep over.
Shout out Scully. My invitation must have got lost in the mail.
Let me shout out Scully. When I was leaving Scully's today, it was hilarious. Scully, I'm opening up my car door, and he was like, throw me a shout out tonight, man. So he did it himself. But the thing with Scully is funny. I told him that no one is going to call it. Scully is where plans go to die. All right. If you were to want to get some, a little bit of momentum going on a get together. Mm-hmm. All right. The last person that you're going to, reach out to to kind of get that excitement building is Scully. Scully is where plans go to die.
For sure. For sure. All right. So listen, in just a few minutes here, we're going to have a conversation about Dawuane Smoot. And actually, for once, I kind of collaborated with you a little bit in terms of like what would be a couple good talking points for this podcast, and you actually volunteered that information. I think it was a great point.
Well, thank you. I think people should know exactly what to expect this episode, though, and the only way to do it for me is to kind of go verbatim on the text. So there was whatever you posted or texted me, anything specific or whatever.
Do you read text? Do you read like entire texts? Like because I know I could get wordy and you don't like to read a lot. No, of my stuff.
I usually do.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give a text a full read, posts and shit like that. If I have to click more on any sort of social platform, I'm not having anything like that. But this was my response to what I wanted today's show to be about. So I'm going to do my best to take it in that direction. My answer was, I'd like to spend some time on how I think I might be eligible for disability. A little UPL free agency / Skinner buyout stuff, and yours and many others' idiotic reaction to Chase Claypool, to name a few things. And then I added maybe how Smoot's contract, all right, screams making 53-man roster. This will really be the whole show tonight here in this text. And
you also say consider this.
Then I added some fantasy baseball draft mistakes I made is another thing I'd like to get to. So those are all the things I'd like to get to tonight.
Well, we're gonna get to all those, and I actually got one or two things too. I replied.
There's no time for those.
Well, there probably will be. There's two guys that I wanted to talk about as potential breakout candidates for the Bills.
Oh,
how riveting there. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with? Let's start with my reaction to Chase Claypool last week, because that's kind of got me. I don't want to say that got me a lot of shit.
Goofy reaction by you and Bill's ex. All right. Goofy ass reaction by a bunch of people. Hey, look, everyone had their face. It's a premium position where a lot of people knew that we were going to go veteran. All right. A lot of people knew we were going to go veteran. There were a lot of veterans out there. A lot of people had their favorites and those that they didn't want to see. But what nobody had was what the Bills had. All right. And that is truly a background on where, Chase Claypool sees himself right now. All right. In his NFL career on this roster, potentially, just cost was a factor then as well. I think some people might have thought there was some cost associated with it, or that other, signings, couldn't have it, but the cost was like minimal. The cost ended up being a veteran minimum,
with no guarantee.
It was a nothing burger, man. It was a nothing burger, other than possibly, all right, a former elite prospect, finding his way with one of the best quarterbacks in the game. It's just, it doesn't have to mean that people weren't wrong to get overly excited by it, trying to talk others off the ledge. But those who needed to be talked off a ledge for this signing, all right, it just didn't make much sense to me. It just looked like bitching for the sake of bitching.
Well,
which you've fucking mastered this offseason, by the way.
Well, I mean, make up your mind, because before you were telling me that everyone who the Bills signed, I loved them instantly. You were telling me that early in free agency.
Fine.
No matter who it was, I loved the player no matter what.
All right. Well, the heel turn came around the draft. Okay. The heel turn came around the draft, and it continued into the Claypool signing.
Well, two parts to that. I want to defend myself at least a little bit here. Number one, when it comes to Chase Claypool specifically, look, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not like the cover one guys who just dozens and dozens and dozens of film they break down all these players where they have intimate knowledge of so many of these guys. I don't, but I do. I'm telling you, I have followed Chase Claypool relatively closely from his time at Notre Dame. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I remember him at school, and he had a bad reputation even in school. He had good success early in the NFL, And then shit just fell apart. He got traded to Chicago after 2 seasons? We don't need to get into his career. You already know that. So I was frustrated over that. And I was also frustrated because, that's the move. I think Chase Claypool might have been a victim to some extent for me of what happened with this position after trading Stephon Diggs. What I thought was going to happen on April 3rd when they traded Stephon Diggs, to me at the time, I'm like, all right, well, that's a chess piece. They're getting rid of Diggs. He's getting the second round pick next year. He could do a million different things. Maybe they make a major trade. Maybe they find a way to sign a bigger name. Maybe they move up in the draft for one of the more highly touted receivers. I certainly thought they were going to double dip at receiver. And then I'm looking post-draft, Odell Beckham, Zay Jones recently, MVS, not great players, but still okay players. And then on a dump Newsday Friday, it's fucking Chase Claypool. So that was kind of like the culmination of
fair.
Like a lot of the whole process. Like,
Yeah.
this is what you end up with,
That's
the
fair.
second round rookie and
Going
Chase
back,
Claypool.
Going back to what the expectations were, just following the Diggs trade, I would agree with that. I would say that, I shared those expectations that it would look better than a Keon Coleman and Chase Claypool. All
Sure.
right. But that's not what they did. All right. They didn't take that swing. But by the same token, they didn't just kind of, sit there and do nothing. They just didn't do as much as we thought with the asset. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a guy, in a 4-5 battle at best, probably.
At best.
Yeah.
I think at best.
Yeah. And he's in a 4-5 battle at best. And so what? I just there's some depth there. It's veteran depth.
Yeah, but it's what if you don't go, if they do nothing else now, if this is their roster and they go to training camp, June 1st comes and goes, and now they don't sign any receiver, and they're like, well, we already signed Chase Claypool, and this is it. That's kind of what frustrates me. It's selfish frustration, maybe because I wanted the team to do something more. I wanted the draft to go a little differently. Maybe originally. I'm kind of over it now as I've had some perspective on it. But
all right, well, I'm going to go through an exercise with you. All right. And actually, I thought about wanting to include this today, but forgot about mentioning it to you. I went back on the airwaves this week. Made a GR call.
Hey, really?
I did.
Oh, wow.
I did.
It's been a while since you used to do that shit all the time.
Yeah, maybe twice in the last few months, but definitely one this week.
Who'd you call in to?
Chopin Dog.
Okay.
Chopin Dog.
Right.
And they were talking about the receiver, just whether or not, all right, fearing, I want to say, I hope that's not too strong a word, but fearing that the Bills are looking every bit like the team that we were worried they wanted to be last year with, with 2 tight ends and less sets of multiple receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I just, not only based upon the wide receiver room necessarily, but also based upon how good that wide receiver room is compared to where it was last year. Just thinking, that lack of depth there, or lack of star power now, means that we're going to see more, Dawson Knox instead of third or fourth receivers. I did not agree with that. And I don't agree with that. And I'll put it to you like this. And these guys were already into the conversation a little bit, so I got to make sure that I put it out in proper context. But, there was talk of Kincaid and where he measures up with Gabe Davis. And the same thing was done with Curtis Samuel. All right. Both of those guys, I think, hedged towards Shakir and Samuel being more productive than Gabe Davis. All right. I mean, I don't want to say better or whatever. we don't know what the scheme fit's going to look like yet. But I agreed with that. I think those two are going to be integral parts that Gabe Davis wasn't. All right. Now I'm going to add in Keon Coleman as well. And I'm going to ask you the question, Do you think it's reasonable to believe, whether it's the Bills, you, whatever, all right, that Keon Coleman at some point this season surpasses Gabe Davis as far as, just an NFL wide receiver? I think a lot of people would say yes to that. I think a lot of people would say yes to that. All right. I've just named you. Oh, okay. And I also posed the question, do we think Dalton Kincaid is on his way, all right, to taking a big step from year 1 to year 2 as a pass catcher? Most people believe that as well. All right. I just gave you 4 pass catchers that are all better than the number 2 option has been on this team, okay, for like the last 4 years. I understand I'm leaving out Diggs. That's I get that. I don't mean to leave him out, but there's an overflow to this formula, all right, that also compensates for the fact that you lost Stephon Diggs. We've got 4 pass catchers right now better than our second option was. Any option was other than Stephon Diggs in the past 4 years. And I'm supposed to be like nervous that this wide receiver room is somehow depleted. I ain't buying it, man. I ain't buying it at all.
It's fair. I'll say this. In terms of looking with Gabe Davis, if you're talking like you think these guys, you're projecting them to be consistently better than what Gabe Davis has been, and yes, because Gabe Davis would go weeks without a catch. Gabe Davis also had games where he'd catch 6 balls for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he would do it a handful of times per year. And my concern is you're projecting that Kincaid is going to take a big step. That's no given. We're projecting that Keon Coleman as a rookie is going to come into this offense and be good. That's not a given. Even Curtis Samuel coming here and being anything more than what he's been the last 3 years, which is not bad, but it's like you are projecting that they're going to be better than what they've been to this point. So I agree with that in a way, and then in a way I don't. I just think the depth of pass catchers right now is as good as it's been since I don't know who the 4th was, but honestly the 13 seconds, you know what I mean? They had Diggs, Gabe, Beasley, and Manuel Sanders. Although Manuel Sanders didn't do much by the end.
Or was he? I can't remember if Sanders was on that team. But yes, I think that best group was the group of Steph, Gabe, Bees, and
Sanders,
and Sanders. And
it's going to be a different offense. Look, this offense could be just as good as it was down the stretch last year. There's no reason not to be.
Where did this start?
Where'd
this start? How'd we get here?
I don't know. It started with the Chase Claypool.
Oh yeah, Claypool
reaction, which I don't think.
Well,
I think nothing. I think nothing of Chase Claypool. Zero.
That's fine, but they're still fine at receiver. Since you've got the guy on your intro animation or whatever, that same day they signed the defensive end that we should get
Dawuane
to,
Smoot.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's look. I want to break down, because not everybody knows this, his contract, because on the surface, Chase Claypool was the name that resonated with people when he signed. But they also signed a linebacker, and they also signed Dawuane Smoot. And contract details came out over the last couple of days. 1-year contract, $2.5 million, $1.75 million of that guaranteed, with 4 void years. You texted this today, and you're right. So elaborate on it a little bit, though.
Well, I have no idea how the 4 void years
they take like
plays into the whole roster certainty. All I know is a bunch of smart dudes saw that contract and said, this is a guy who's making the roster
because of the guaranteed money.
So it seems relevant.
Yeah. It is relevant. It's a contract that says he's going to make the roster. You know what's a contract that doesn't say you're going to make the roster? Casey Tuhill, who they signed as a defensive end early in free agency. Dude's got $15,000. That's his guaranteed money. 1.75 for Smoot. So it certainly appears that this is a guy that they're counting on being that fourth end. Maybe a floor of Shaq Lawson and a ceiling of Leonard Floyd, if that sounds about accurate.
It does. It does. I always saw, what's his name? Toohill?
Casey Toohill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always saw Toohill as kind of the Shaq guy. Ed Setter type. Might not be right about that. Might just be saying it because he's white. I don't know. But I think I always saw Toohill in that role and expected one more. And that, and that one ended up being Smoot. I heard of him. I've heard of him. That helps.
Yeah, he's
he's
a pretty dude. I mean, so he tore his Achilles in 2022. Really didn't do much last year. Came back, was not really effective, but for 4 consecutive years before that, from 2019, 2021, and 2022, he had at least 6 sacks in 4 straight seasons. So he's kind of got those Leonard Floyd vibes.
Yeah,
a little bit. Let me ask you this too. So because we talked about last week, I think we talked about on the show, June 1st, the Bills are still going to make some signings. Well, the Bills, I mean, you're right. This contract tells me this is their fourth end. I mean, Von Miller's a lock. Groot is a lock. A.J. Epinesa a lock. And it certainly seems like Smoot's a lock. There's your fourth end that's a lock. I don't know about receiver. I mean, there's not really many left. Beckham goes to Miami. There's maybe 2 or 3 receivers out there, but not a lot. Tyler Boyd just signed with the Titans. I don't think they're doing anything now June 1st. What are they doing June 1st that a week ago we thought maybe they would? I feel like this was their June 1st.
That's, I get that. I don't, I don't pretend to know that, that they would be looking at this. It's just a dart throw, really. But, maybe this year Brandon Beane wants to be in the middle of the action, in the trade market, in the in-season trade market. I mean, it's not like he's going to come out and say that, that money's being stashed for that purpose. I'm sure, plenty of it'll get used, but maybe they go into this year, at like, who knows, a $5 million cushion to get involved in the trade market this year, especially with the 2 next year, right?
Yeah, boy, I hope
what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? As a
there's
strategy,
nothing wrong with that,
right?
There's nothing wrong with that. I just hope it's just not.
I don't hate
we're going
it
to roll
as a strategy
more money, yet more assets and more money into 2025, and not do more for 2024. This is why I got frustrated about the Claypool signing, because I'm still today waiting for something else to come down the chute at receiver. And I just don't think it's going to anymore.
It's about to get real quiet, man. Honestly, like you can tell how quiet it's about to get by the fact that I think we've had some good takes, but I'm like bored as fuck talking about this shit right now. Like seriously, man.
Well, you're not going to get any less bored because
nothing's about to happen for a few months.
We're talking about wide receivers, and kind of leads me to one of the 2 guys that I'm feeling really good about right now in terms of potential, at least breakout players. And I know this is not going to wet your whistle much at all, but
I know who it is.
Well,
a lot of people, like the idea too.
Let's talk about Justin Shorter just for a minute here. Well, let's talk about him. All right,
teased for liking him, and it's like,
well, I mean, dude. All right, so he's
this goofy cycle with Justin Shorter.
Well, let me ask you this: kind of pivot away from just him as the player. He's a 5th round pick, and Brandon Beane, if he's done nothing else consistently well as GM of this football team, he has found really good players on day 3, 4th round and beyond. He's done it literally every year. Why is nobody even bringing this guy up, who's a 5th round pick a year ago, and we didn't see anything from him other than camp in a preseason game, which, by the way, in that preseason game against Pittsburgh, he had 6 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. Gets hurt, hurts his hamstring. Could have came back, I'm sure. He was basically redshirted
Correct.
for the back half of his year. But he's going into year 2. And he's a big dude and a 5th-round pick from a year ago. Kind of feel like this could be a guy, we were talking about Chase Claypool, the 4, the 5. I still feel strongly that if the Bills do nothing else, Justin Shorter's that guy. Maybe Chase Claypool's here in case Justin Shorter busts out and fizzles out and is nothing. It's the only thing I could think of. But I like Justin Shorter. I don't know why more people aren't talking about him like literally at all.
Well, you're listening to the wrong places then, because I see plenty of love for Justin Shorter, almost to the point where, it's been mocked at times. Not crazy love, but enough. And the answer is somewhere in the middle, right?
Mhm.
People that are too high on him are too far one way, and people that just scoff at the fact that will pull any name out of a hat and talk about it. Hey, I like this guy, maybe he's something. The answer is somewhere in the middle, and it's just this administration has always just brought in a roster at training camp that competes for back end jobs, usually a rookie with a veteran, and the benefit is that you finally have veterans willing to come here, all right, to compete for those jobs.
Mhm.
Because we play in prime time, we're usually in the thick of things, and it's a chance to cash in on their next contract. I'd argue, even if you don't like Claypool, which is fine, but I'd argue that you wouldn't see any one of those 3 signings for the amount that they signed for, all right, with a drought era Bills roster. You know what I mean? These are veterans who have played some high end ball, and they are looking to cash in one more time. And here's where you get on people's radar, because you're on TV,
Sure.
every other week. You're in front of everybody every other week. So because we can bring those veterans here, we can push guys like Justin Shorter, guys like Khalil Shakir. We can push those guys to have to go and win jobs, and it usually pays off. Whether it's the veteran who reemerges, or whether it's the second year player or whatever that went through a redshirt type rookie season, who really kind of kicks it in and comes to the realization that they're not being handed a roster spot just because they were a draft pick. They usually get this right. They usually get this right, and I just have no reason to believe that that the current camp battles being set up at wide receiver and in a few other spots as well, on the depth side of things, won't make this team better in the long run.
Sure. And look, I'm not trying to say Justin Shorter is going to be this year's, Terrell Bernard, who last year no one in the world was talking about Terrell Bernard, and now he's a player that you can't live without, it sort of seems. I'll say one other thing about Chase Claypool as well. If I'm going to say anything nice about him, I'll say this. If there's anywhere he's going to resurrect his career, it's going to be right now, because this is probably the end of the road for him. If he doesn't, he's playing with a great quarterback, and there is opportunity there. Mac Hollins is not the greatest fourth receiver ever walk God's green earth. And maybe Keon Coleman struggles as a rookie. So there could be opportunity there for Chase Claypool. By the way, I give you some credit too. 23 minutes into a podcast that you're here, that you drive in studio from plenty of distance to say that you're bored with the episode that you're on right now. I actually kind of admire that, man.
That's it's very Bill centric. It's
sure.
That's
what the people like, though. Speaking of,
it is.
Let me put up a graphic. I, at the moment, on the live feed here on the video side, Gabe's yards per catch were 7th in the league last year, which I don't care about that. But he also said Gabe had 599 yards in year 1. Pretty confident Keon beats this. So let me ask you that. Do you see, and again, we're projecting, of course, and it's only fucking early May, but 600 yards, Keon Coleman. That a good rookie year for him? And do you see him having a season where he could have 600 yards as a rookie? I think that's a good number. That's a good number to shoot for.
It is. And maybe it's not enough for some because, Gabe did that as like a fourth, I think. And Keon, you might want more from it. But, it's all just a matter of.
I think that'd be a good year for him.
I agree. You
got Kincaid coming up, and you got 2 other good receivers, and you want to run the football more. I think
who says that? Who says you want to run the football more? Why is that a thing?
Because I think that is a thing for the Bills. I looked it up today, by the way, for a different show. The Bills were like 6th or 2nd in the NFL in time of possession last year on offense.
We're so hung up on that. That's
true, though.
We're so hung up on that.
It's true.
It
seems that way. It seems that way.
I don't agree with it.
One other guy, I said I had 2 guys. This will be a throwaway one, but I like Dorian Williams. I don't know how you feel about him. I know last year he was in the doghouse for a lot of the year, a lot of mental gaps out there. You could tell Sean was not high on him, but his athleticism, at times he was making a lot of plays. And
Dorian Williams,
if he can put it together a little bit better mentally this year, I think he could be a pretty key player on his team, even if he don't start.
Another example of the Justin Shorter dynamic that I just talked about. A little different in the sense that Williams saw the field in year 1.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but he was a 3 versus Shorter a 5. So a little bit different in that regard. But look, kid, all right, if you don't buckle down and become, a good pro, then Morrow from Philly and Jones from Atlanta, all right, are in veteran, depth pieces that will take that job, right from you. So again, I don't hate your selection of Dorian Williams, but the Bills aren't just counting on Dorian Williams to take that.
I agree with that.
Take that step and be, a solid number 3 behind, unfortunately, what is starting to become a little bit of maybe a fragile linebacker room.
It is,
and the Bills,
absolutely.
The Bills just aren't giving him that gig. So hey, it'd be great if Dorian Williams takes a big step, but we have seen rookies who see the field in year 1, show a load of talent, and then they take their foot off the gas a little bit. We've seen it happen. So as long as we're backed up, man, and we usually are, until you got to get to AJ Klein.
That's it though, Tone. Do you kind of get the sense that this was, let's never have AJ Klein have to be on the field again kind of off season for the Bills?
Dude,
when they go out, you mentioned Morrow, you mentioned Jones. We already talked about Williams. They also drafted a rookie from Penn State in the 5th round as well. So
that's 2000 and whatever Sabres defense against Carolina type bad luck right there. All right. I mean, seriously, that's what AJ Klein was, at least in my opinion.
Sure. I agree. All right, quick break. Come back on the video side. This will be like a 3-second break. Come back, and I got a couple more Bills things, and then we'll a few minutes of Sabres talk to appease you as well. All right, I'm back here with Tone Pucks. Before we get into any Sabres stuff, did you watch Embedded yet? Bills Embedded?
No, I catch clips on Twitter and
it was really good.
Call it a day.
It was really good. I watching that, I do believe, GMs always say they got their guy. I truly believe, at least in round 2, watching Embedded, Cole Bishop was their guy. And I believe now, I thought it was bullshit at first. I do think they tried to move up for him. You could tell how pumped they were before they even picked him. Even Terry Bagula was in the video throughout because he was in the war room for the draft. He mentioned him by name, the safety. You could tell that they really wanted that player.
That's maybe worth that might be worth me watching it beginning to end. What is it, like about an 8-minute clip?
20. No, it's a 28-minute episode. It's a full episode. It's basically about the 3. I mean, they got snippets of all the draft picks there in the end, but it's primarily focused on Coleman, Bishop, and Dwayne Carter, who's another guy that I'm pretty impressed with. You could tell this draft was about character, leadership, kind of like guys who could come in here and become maybe future leaders of this football team. I like the picks. My mind has changed since the draft. I think maybe I was a little stubborn at first because we all want to be right. You pick your guys that you want how you want it to go, and then you kind of get annoyed when it doesn't go your way. But the more I've watched these guys and learned a little bit about them and how they fit, I really do like it. At least these first 3 picks I like a lot, especially the Cole Bishop one. You could really tell that they were really high on that guy. Just playing a lot more matchup defense. You could just tell it's coming right now with this team. Anyway, watch it. It is it's worth it.
Sounds exciting. No, the embedded sounds good. I agree with all that shit. It's just, super boring on May 10th.
It is super boring on May 10th. So's Sabres talk, but whatever. I do
No,
want
you know what?
I do want to talk about
It's not that boring because the UPL thing I've got to take on.
All right. Well, let's talk about him actually. Let's transition.
Take that freaking contract to arbitration. I don't see any reason to do anything else with this player. All right. I get it. He had a terrific second half or a terrific season. He had a terrific season, and that will cost you a couple million in what the arbitration award likely will be. But nobody is ready to say, I'm ready for this to be my goaltender for the next 4 years. He has shown me enough to where I'm ready to just turn over the keys to him, for the next 3 or 4 years while Levi, marinates a little bit. No, man, everybody is still very much in the Devin Levi camp of, I think the championship level goaltender here is Devin Levi. And I just, it could be wrong and it's fine if it is, but you don't have to spend more than you need to here. Let it get to arbitration. Let him get the 1-year award. Look, don't insult him with anything. You know what I mean? Don't come out. Don't let your contract, offers and negotiations insult him. Don't come to the table in arbitration with a lot of negative shit. But at the end of the day, I would absolutely slow roll this negotiation, take it to arbitration, and buy myself 1 more year of who my long-term goaltender is going to be.
Lance Lazowski of the Buffalo News, in his report about UPL, said that if it goes to arbitration, he would expect UPL to earn more than $3.75 million for this year. He also pointed out too, and I'm not saying anything you said is wrong, at least long-term about UPL, and he doesn't have a great long-term track record, but as Lance pointed out, this was the best season by a Sabres goaltender since Ryan Miller back in 2011 and 2012. I don't think he should be getting a 5-6 year contract. Do you think the Sabres might be a little bit snake bitten too because of long-term contracts that they've given out now over these last 2 years?
Well, yes, but I don't think
that might play a part in it. You don't think that'll play any part in it at all?
Not with UPL. I don't think they're even in the same sort of mindset, with UPL as they were with the long-term commitments that they felt they needed to make, to Cousins, Thompson, Power and Dahlin. So I don't think they're worried about that. Maybe they're looking at the fear bunker, the UPL fear bunker has posters of Linus Ullmark in it. All right. Not where they don't want to see that happen.
What, and leave, win a Vezina when he leaves? That's what he did.
Yeah. Or just, not, they don't want to undervalue, you know what I mean? That's more the undervalue fear bunker. To me, I would just totally slow play this to arbitration.
So what you wouldn't do then, like, for an example, in Lance's story, Stratos from Nashville, a goalie that he wanted to compare a contract to.
Who?
Stratos, whatever the fuck his name is.
I don't think you're close.
4 years, 20 million. So $5 million a year over 4 years. That's not something you're even interested in with UPL. EvolvingHockey.com projects a UPL contract at 4 years, 5.2 average per year.
Unless, and this could be, all right, because God knows, I'm not doing any homework on this. Unless he goes to free agency from the arbitration award, you know what I mean? Like would play this year and then go into free agency. I'm not sure of the timing of that. But we got the chips here, man. We've got the chips here, and I'm not ready to kick the Devin Levi can 4 years down the road.
Okay, I don't want to break away from this, but I'm kind of got my eye word. So we're live on the video side on Twitter or on Facebook.
Is it breaking news? Do you have breaking news?
Probably not, but because you definitely don't watch wrestling. But Gabe, stop, because this is related to the Bills. Gabe Stevenson is an Olympic champion wrestler, like real wrestling, not fake wrestling, real wrestling. Signed with WWE, didn't work out. Ryan Talbot is reporting right now. Don't be surprised if the Bills are one of the teams that reached out to Olympic gold medalist Gabe Stevenson. I don't know if Gabe Stevenson ever played any football.
This is why people always accuse me of being so annoyed. It is an unfair characterization of me because it's usually only related to you. That's not true. I am annoyed all the time, but mostly in a joking manner. But sounds great.
I mean, they did draft a guy in the 7th round who's never played any football this year. It's just what the hell's going on?
Someone was real high on him. Someone was real.
They talked about him a little bit on Embedded too. They talked about him on Embedded, just what a freak athlete he is. Shit, I don't know, man. Anyway, so you said you wanted to talk about Jeff Skinner some more, didn't we? Already covered that last week. And by the way, you want to talk about a pretty hot topic. Bring it up, him getting bought out, which I still think you are the one person right now who still thinks that is even realistically, semi-realistically possible right now, him getting bought out. But has anything changed since we talked last that you brought him up?
No. Nope. I am firm in that camp. It looks like one truly inconvenient, to say the least, year. I think it's not next year, but the year after. You got to eat a 6 or something like that. Manage your finances to be able to overcome eating a 6 in a year and a half. Figure it out. Figure it out. The guy does not have a place on this roster, in this lineup, that match his skill sets, all right, with what they talk about wanting up and down the lineup, unless he elevates up and back into your top 6. And I just don't think that's somewhere that we're going to see him. I just don't think that that he's going to be depended on to be in the top 6. And if he's not top 6, he's nothing. What are you doing?
I don't know. I'm just hitting shit on my phone. Something came up.
I think it's toast, man. I think they're going to find a way. I think he's played his last game as a Buffalo Sabre. I just, how they can talk the way they're talking about how they want their bottom 6 to look, and then to go put Jeff Skinner in it would blow my mind. So the only other place, all right, is in the top 6,
or it's got to be a buyout. I just don't see a trade scenario, because 3 years,
unless
$9 million a year. Most good teams. First of all, he's got another thing.
Well, then another team could buy him out.
He's got a no trade clause.
That's going to kill.
He's got a no trade clause. So if he, you want to set him to a cap floor kind of team, he's going to probably say no.
I don't ever want to miss an opportunity to, to back up my that take of Skinner being bought out, especially, being one of the only ones who's dying on that hill. But yeah, it's been we've talked about it ad nauseum. So what else did I have?
Pretty much that's it. Oh, well, actually, you're
big matchup for you today, this week in fantasy
I'm
baseball.
playing you
Like
this
you
week,
don't
actually,
want
in our
to,
league.
you don't.
I'm not playing
The Kielbasa Kids is not the team you want to see.
6-4.
The Kielbasa Kids is not the team you want to see when you're struggling. All right, to stay around 500 or get yourself back over 500. And
the weekends are killing me, man.
Like, because I don't make like mistakes in lineups and stuff like that. Like I made drafting mistakes. All right, I was too high on guys like Jackson Holiday, Wyatt Langford, guys that I couldn't get my hands on in these other super deep dynasty pools that I was chomping at the bit to get my hands on as top 10 prospects, in our redraft pool. But I went too early on them, and I'm paying some price there. I'm paying the price there.
I'm a little intrigued by you were
Holiday
talking about what's up with your disability desires as we're getting out of here in like 2-3 minutes. But
well, here's the thing. I am often, find myself with like very inconvenient sorenesses. All right, like something's always hurting on me, and I think I've put a lot of things off because I simply don't do anything that that physical anymore to have to worry about it, right? But now as I get into my 50s, early as they may be, I start to think about some of these ailments and how they are essentially playing a role in my inability, for gainful employment. You know what I mean?
Let me.
I don't
want to cut you off because I like where we're going with this, but it's going to. Let me combine this with something because I was going to ask you this anyway, but I feel like your answer could kind of lead into this as well. Maybe not, but somebody. So I did a pod bag on yesterday's show. People have takes and questions, and I get to them. One I saved because I was like, all right, well, I knew you were going to be on the show tonight, and you're my age. I mean, I got you by a year, but we're same age, early 50s.
You just turned 53, didn't you?
Yes, I got you by a year and 2 months.
I'm 51. I mean, right now it's 2 years.
All right, well,
you're pushing into the
somebody
mid-50s.
said,
I'm still early.
Somebody asked me, and I've had time to think about this. You haven't had any time to think about this, but somebody asked me, says, you're old, and they said LOL, but then they said, seriously, as you're getting older, there's lots of things you like, but what makes you saddest as you're getting older? What makes you the saddest? I don't know if this is tied into your answer, but I want to ask you that before I answer that. Like, what, as you're getting older, what makes you saddest? Is this the answer, the road that you already were going down, where you're just inconveniently sore all the time and it's hurting your potential gainful employment opportunities? Like, what makes you saddest, if this is related to that? But if not, I want to hear the end of your story about being sore. And
it's not exactly a good tie-in, but I can still answer the question.
Okay.
What makes me saddest is the fact that I am nearer to death than I've ever been. I'm just going to be that blunt about it. All right. What makes me what I struggle with. All right. And you're probably hoping for some sort of engaging, witty answer, but I'm a 51-year-old dude with a 5 and an 8-year-old. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like,
yeah,
I'm in shape enough to still be able to be athletic with them and stuff like that, but it's questionable as to how long I'm gonna have.
You'll be able to have that catch. Be able to have that catch
with them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that is probably some of my deeper, darker, intimate things that I'm so glad I shared with your people.
I thought about it because, again, I kind of just sprung it on you, and it's not a. There were some things that maybe it used to be like it used to be that I hated the fact that people would tell me I'm too old to still be out at the club at midnight. You know what I mean? With people that are in their like late 20s, early 30s, you know, pack bars and like, what the fuck are you doing now? You know, you're 47 years old or whatever. It's not that anymore. It's not like what you were kind of talking about. You just get inconveniently sore and I'm hungover way more than I have ever been. I can't do shit. None of that stuff makes me the saddest. Kind of going back to what you were talking about at the very beginning of this podcast, dude. It's the kids. I'm sad because I can't be younger, but not because I'd be healthier or being able to do stuff. I miss. You were just talking about like at the beginning of the show, you have 5 and 8 year old going to baseball or sometimes taking the basketball or whatever. I miss that. I miss being young enough that Shane still played sports, like little league sports, and being able to sit at the football field and the baseball diamonds. That like was fulfilling to me. You know what I mean? It really was fulfilling to me, and I kind of felt lost without that, and I still do to some extent. That's what makes me sad. Now my kid's a man now. He's a full-ass grown adult. He ain't playing little loop sports or high school sports anymore. So I'm kind of sad that I'm not younger for that reason.
Yo, I mean, well, that makes me kind of think about one of my many, you know, excitements over having a 5 and an 8 year old, you know, at 151 or whatever I am right now.
I legit am.
I mean, I get it, you know, having a chance to go through all that again, but yeah, you know, I mean, it's if I'd like to at least get to their high school careers. All right, if I can make it to their high school careers, what is that? Maybe about another.
You're only playing on
7
to 9 years, maybe,
bro. All right,
come on, dude. You're 51, man. You're 71.
I'm pretty beat up. I mean, we'll get into my disability factors later, but I'm breaking down. You know, I'm breaking down.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't really think anyone left in the audience, although there is still over almost 400 people here on the live stream still. So I do appreciate everybody who has stuck around to the end. Next week, we should have something a little more timely to talk about. The NFL schedule drops, like literally it'll drop right before we go on live. So we will definitely have
leaks across the board. We'll have it. We'll have it by then.
Yeah,
I'm not confirmed, but this is not me confirming.
Okay? You're here next week.
This is not me confirming.
All right. Well, if you are here, we will react to the Bills schedule, the NFL schedule. If you're not here, I'm going to do it anyway. So that'll be next week. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to be live at Casey's Black Rock.
I might come to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love wings from there.
Good spot, man.
I'm coming off another game, and you know, probably looking to kill time until the kids go to bed. So yeah, there's a good chance I'm popping in on that.
Okay.
Did he get the
what?
Need confirmation ASAP text?
Matt Marino?
Yeah, Matt Marino.
No. Matt gets
shit. He doesn't get.
I don't need to remind Matt. I say, Matt, are you going to do the show? He says yes. So anyway, for people on the audio side who don't see what the hell we're talking about, Matt Marino is going to be with me live from Casey's Black Rock. We'll be streaming at 8 p.m. So make sure you check that out. For Tone Pucks, I'm Patrick. I'll be back. Brand new show tomorrow. Talk to you guys then. Thank you for tuning in on the live stream.